Moscow, 1980. We are in one of the offices of the Faculty of Mechanics and Mathematics at Moscow State University, Anatoly Fomenko. He was 35 years old at the time, a doctor of science, one of the best topologists in the Soviet Union, but at that moment he was not working on research related to mathematics. In front of him, scattered across his desk, lay printouts with columns of numbers, graphs, and correlation curves. Fomenko has done something that no historian before him had thought to do. He ran medieval chronicles through a statistical algorithm, looking for patterns and repetitions in the length of rulers' reigns, the frequency of wars, the rhythm of dynastic changes, and so on. The results he obtained made him stop, go back, and repeat the calculations from scratch. The answer, however, was the same. Different historical periods from antiquity, the early Middle Ages, and biblical history yielded nearly identical statistical profiles. It is as if someone had taken the same events and recounted them 3 times, calling them Ancient Rome the first time, Biblical Israel the second, and Holy Roman Empire the third. 3 different names, 3 different eras, but behind them lies the same sequence. It is important to note that Fomenko is not a conspiracy theorist or some amateur from internet forums. The man is a future member of the Russian Academy of Sciences, a laureate of the Russian State Prize in Mathematics, the author of 180 scientific publications on topology and differential geometry, and the solver of Plato's classical problem of minimal spectral surfaces, a problem mathematicians have been grappling with since the 19th century. On top of everything else he paints, his drawings, inspired by topological objects, have been exhibited in galleries and published in mathematical journals around the world. And it is precisely this man, with this impeccable reputation, who arrives at a conclusion that would become the reason he was both hated and idolized for the rest of his life, because he claimed that all of ancient history is a fabrication. Greece, Rome, Egypt, it's all a forgery created by Jesuits in the 16th and 17th centuries. But before you decide he's crazy, you should first know where the chronology we learn in school actually comes from, because the answer is far more troubling than you might think. Every time we say the 5th century BC or the 13th century, we're using a system invented by 2 specific people. The first is named Joseph Justus Scaliger. He was born in 1540 in France, the son of the Italian physician and philosopher Julius Caesar Scaliger. A philologist and Protestant who escaped the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre, he later became a professor at Leiden University and was considered the most erudite scholar of his time. He spoke 13 languages. In 1583, he published a work in Latin titled De Emendatione Temporum, on the correction of the ages, in which he did something no one before him had done. He linked biblical, Hellenistic, Roman, Egyptian, and Babylonian history into a single timeline. Before Scaliger, a unified chronology did not exist. Each culture counted the years in its own way, and no one had sat down to arrange them into a single table. The second is Dionysius of Batavia, a French Jesuit theologian born in 1583 in Orléans, author of the monumental work De Doctrina Temporum from 1627. It was Patavi who built upon Scaliger's work and introduced the before Christ and after Christ system that we still use today. In practice, these 2 men, a Calvinist and a Jesuit, constructed the framework of all world history, which we take for granted. And here's what's troubling. They do this without archaeology, without laboratories, without carbon-14 dating, without dendrochronology, in short, without anything we would today call a scientific dating method. They work with texts such as church chronicles, biblical genealogies, and calculations of eclipses, and with no small amount of guesswork. Scaliger himself, who is known to have been a brilliant philologist, had serious weaknesses in mathematics. He published a proof, in quotation marks, for squaring the circle, which is an obvious error even by 16th century standards. Do you know who disputed Scaliger's dates? Isaac Newton? Yes, that Newton. In his 1726 work, The Chronology of Ancient Kingdoms Amended, Newton argues that Scaliger was off by several centuries in his dating of ancient Greek history. The academic community ignored him and told him he had ventured into foreign territory, but he was not the only one. As early as the 18th century, the Jesuit Jean Ardouin, curator of the Royal Library under Louis XIV, concluded that most ancient classical texts were in fact medieval forgeries. Ardouin was considered an eccentric, and his words also fell on deaf ears. 300 years later, Fomenko ventured into the same territory, but he comes armed with a computer. And he is not entirely alone. Before him, Nikolai Morozov, a Russian revolutionary who spent 25 years in the Schlisselburg fortress, had already traveled the same path. It was in prison that Morozov wrote his 7-volume work, The History of Human Culture from the Perspective of the Natural Sciences, in which he challenges the chronology of ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome. It was published between 1924 and 1932, but the Soviet academic community received it coolly. Fomenko read Morozov decades later and decided to pick up where the revolutionary had left off, but now backed by computational power that Morozov could not even have dreamed of. Fomenko and his co-author, Gleb Nosovsky, a candidate of physical and mathematical sciences and a specialist in probability theory, developed methods for the statistical analysis of chronicle texts. The underlying logic is simple. If two chronicles supposedly describe different eras but their profiles coincide with suspicious accuracy, the length of kings' reigns, the rhythm of wars, the alternation of strong and weak rulers, perhaps we are not dealing with two different eras. Perhaps it is the same era recorded twice under different names. The first results appeared in Soviet mathematical journals in 1980 and revealed something truly disturbing: 3 major shifting repetitions in the timeline, occurring around the years 333, 1053, and 1800. Put simply, if you take the history between the 10th and 16th centuries and project it backward by these intervals, you get antiquity. In other words, there is no antiquity. There is a single Middle Ages, rewritten several times and scattered across a fictitious timeline. From here on, things get even more unimaginable. Fomenko identifies Jesus Christ with the Byzantine Emperor Andronikos I Komnenos, a real historical figure who reigned from 1183 to 1185. Andronikos was a reformer who tried to curb the corruption of the aristocracy and protect the common people. The people loved him, but the elite hated him. He was deposed, tortured, and publicly executed in Constantinople in an exceptionally brutal manner, dragged through the streets, mutilated, and his body left to be desecrated. According to Fomenko, the crucifixion did not take place in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago, but occurred on Mount Yush near Constantinople around 1185. Biblical Jerusalem is actually Constantinople. Solomon's temple is Hagia Sophia, and Solomon is Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. The Trojan War? It did not take place in the 12th century BC. It was the First Crusade, 1096 to 1099, the same event recounted twice, with different names and in different languages. The Egyptian pyramids? They aren't thousands of years old. The zodiacal images on the walls, analyzed by Fomenko and Nosovsky, according to them, indicate dates from the 11th to the 19th century. But the real mystery is just beginning. Why? Why would anyone falsify the entire history of humanity? Fomenko has an answer, and it is, to put it mildly, astonishing. According to him, before the 16th century, a vast empire centered in Russia existed in Eurasia, which he calls the Russian Horde. Genghis Khan was not a Mongol conqueror, but a Russian ruler. The Mongol invasion was in fact a Russian military expansion. The Tatar-Mongol yoke was an internal administrative system that later Western chroniclers rewritten as a foreign invasion to downplay Russia's role in history. Even the lands west of the 13 colonies, today's American Midwest and Far West, were, according to Fomenko, the far eastern part of the Siberian American Empire until its collapse in 1775. The chronology of Scaliger and Petavius, he claims, was deliberately constructed by the Vatican and the Holy Roman Empire, and later cemented by the Romanovs to erase the memory of that empire. The Gregorian calendar of 1582 itself, introduced by Pope Gregory XIII with the help of Jesuit astronomers, is not an innocent correction of time, but a tool for cementing the new artificial chronology. Here, individual mathematical theory spills over into a geopolitical narrative and takes on a completely different weight. Fomenko and Nosovsky's books became bestsellers, over 100 titles with a print run of about 1 million copies published in Russian, Bulgarian, German, Italian and English. Chess champion Garry Kasparov wrote the foreword for the English edition. Russian nationalists embraced the theory as proof of Russia's hidden greatness. Academician Sergei Glaziev, an economist close to the Kremlin, openly endorsed it. In 2010, the Holy Synod of the Russian Old Believer Church officially condemned the teachings of Fomenko and Nosovsky as incompatible with church tradition, and Old Believers even brought a church trial against Nosovsky for rewriting biblical history. When a theory reaches the ecclesiastical court, you realize that things have already spiraled out of control. If all of this is true, we are not living in 2026 today, but somewhere around 1026. 2/3 of recorded history simply never happened. Textbooks, museums, archaeological catalogues, everything is built on a foundation of copied chronicles and falsified dates. But this story, like any other, has two sides. The Russian Academy of Sciences officially reviewed the theory in 1998. The conclusion was brief and harsh. Academician Fomenko's theses present a pseudo-scientific view of history created by his imagination and have nothing to do with reality. This is not the opinion of a single person. It is the pronouncement of the very institution of which Fomenko himself is a full member. Behind this verdict lie concrete arguments, and they deserve attention. Dendrochronology, dating based on tree rings, extends back approximately 12 to 14,000 years in its longest established chronologies. Medieval Russia built with wood, churches, bridges, entire residential neighborhoods. In Novgorod, Kiev, and Pskov, archaeologists have excavated tens of thousands of wooden beams from the foundations of such buildings and dated each one by its rings with an accuracy of 10 to 20 years. The results confirm the chronicles, the 9th to 13th centuries, exactly as recorded in the annals. Fomenko rejects these data but offers no explanation as to why thousands of independent measurements from different laboratories on different continents yield the same results. Radiocarbon dating, the measurement of the decay of carbon-14 in organic materials, works back to 50,000 years, and after calibration with dendrochronological data, its accuracy is on the order of decades. The two methods corroborate each other and consistently support the conventional chronology. Astronomical calculations are perhaps the most convincing weapon against Fomenko's new chronology. The eclipses described by Babylonian and Hellenistic chroniclers can be verified with absolute precision. Modern computers calculate when and from where every solar or lunar eclipse in history was visible with an accuracy of hours. Astronomers Yuri Efremov and Yuri Zavinyagin prove that the star catalogue in Ptolemy's Almagest corresponds to observations from the 2nd century BCE, exactly as conventional chronology states. Fomenko dates the Almagest to the 10th century, but his analysis has been repeatedly criticized as methodologically unsound since it ignores Ptolemy's own data as the origin of his coordinate system. On the linguistic front, academician Andrei Zalizniak, one of the most respected Russian linguists, demonstrated in 1998 that Fomenko's linguistic coincidences in quotation marks betray a profound ignorance of historical phonetics and grammar. Ancient languages have a documented evolution governed by patterns discovered only in the 19th and 20th centuries, patterns that cannot be retroactively falsified since the people who wrote these texts were unaware of them. The old Russian birch bark letters from Novgorod, for example, follow grammatical rules that differ from modern Russian in ways that are predictable by historical linguistics and completely unpredictable to a potential forger from the 17th century. Fomenko's statistical method itself, however elegant it may seem at first glance, has not been independently confirmed by any other researcher. Mathematicians and computer scientists note that the correlations he discovers could easily turn out to be coincidental, especially in texts with a limited vocabulary and repetitive narrative patterns: war, king, heir. In 2004, Fomenko and Nosovsky received the Paragraph Anti Award in the Honorary Ignorance category, a recognition of a very different nature. We do not know whether Fomenko is a genius who saw something others refused to notice, or a brilliant mathematician who applied perfect tools to the wrong problem and obtained beautifully wrong results. Physical evidence such as tree rings, isotope decay, and planetary orbits firmly supports conventional chronology. Fomenko's theory has not been confirmed by a single independent physical method. The academic community, including many of his fellow mathematicians, considers it pseudoscience and, in their view, has serious grounds for doing so. But the question Fomenko raises remains uncomfortable. Who constructed the timeline along which we organize our past? Two people, in the 16th and 17th centuries, working without a single one of the tools we now consider indispensable. And we have taken their work for granted, not because it has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, but because no one has challenged it convincingly enough. Perhaps Fomenko is wrong on all his main points, but the very fact that an academic with an impeccable reputation in mathematics has devoted 4 decades to the question, how do we know that the past really happened that way, deserves more than ridicule. Because if history can be rewritten once, it can be rewritten twice. And if we don't know when it happened the first time, how will we know if it happens again? We decided it was important to make this video because, after all, history is too important to leave solely in the hands of historians. What if Fomenko isn't a mad scientist, but has actually fallen victim to a system that destroys knowledge of the past? Imagine that everything you know about history is a carefully edited lie. This is not a conspiracy fantasy. It is the documented history of the longest and most successful campaign to control information in human history. A war against ancient knowledge that continues to this day. You can learn more about this erasure in the video on the left.